Hey! About a year ago, SmallRig released this tripod here together with Potato Jet. It's the TRIBEX tripod, and it received mixed perceptions. Like, many people seem to love the base functionality of this tripod, which is the hydraulic legs, what makes it super easy and fast to set up your shots. I would say there's no faster way to set up and level everything. But what many people did not like about this tripod was the price of $800, which might be fine for commercial filmmakers, cinematographers or so that are used to tripods that cost a lot more money than that. But for a general content creator like myself, $800 for a tripod is definitely hard to swallow. And that's why SmallRig made a super nice move with this tripod here. That's the new TRIBEX SE tripod, which they offer at just half the price, is $400, and it has the same base functionality, hydraulic legs, as you can see here. So you can set up your shots in exactly the same amount of time as with the TRIBEX tripod, but for half the price. Now that suggests that there might be a few downsides with this tripod, and that's why I thought let's compare them today in this video, so you know if it's fine to get the SE one or not. And you might actually be surprised, so let's get into it now. So let's start with the overall specs of those tripods. So as you can probably tell already, these are not your general travel tripods. I would personally not bring any of those tripods on a international trip, and especially not if I hike a lot. Maybe if I would do something where I travel a lot with the car and I know I have to set up many shots and I don't really have to walk that much, then I would probably bring them, because starting with the weight, the TRIBEX SE tripod is 3.7 kilos and the TRIBEX tripod, the original one, is 3.8 kilos. So it's actually not a big difference between both tripods. And I think that was a bit of a missed opportunity from SmallRig, because they made the SE version a bit smaller, but they also made it out of aluminum and not out of carbon fiber like the original TRIBEX tripod. And I wish there would be a version that would have maybe the same size as the SE one, but be made out of carbon fiber, maybe for $100 more or so, because then maybe we could get the weight down to 2 kilos, not 2, probably 3 or something like that, or maybe a bit lower. And if there are weight savings, I always appreciate that. So it was definitely not their goal to bring the weight down. Instead, they just focused on making everything a bit cheaper, and I guess aluminum is cheaper than carbon fiber, so that's why they did that. And next up is the working height, which is 23 to 166 centimeters on the TRIBEX SE tripod, and 27 to 168 centimeters on the TRIBEX tripod. So also there is not a big difference, but the SE version of this tripod folds down to 71 centimeters, while the original one takes up 79 centimeters. So if you want to bring it somewhere and have to put it in your luggage, the SE might fit a bit better, but it's also not a big difference at all. And the payload is also quite similar on both tripods. Like on the head, you get 6 kilo on both, and the overall maximum load capacity, or whatever they call that, is 15 kilograms on the SE and 25 kilograms on the TRIBEX. So overall, I would also say that's a draw, because the limiting factor here is clearly 6 kilograms. And when do you really shoot a setup that's more than 6 kilograms? Even if you have an FX6 or FX3 or so, I think you're usually below that. So you might be fine with both tripods, even for heavy setups. So overall, when we're looking at all those standard specs, those tripods also are super similar, and that's where the question is really, where are the differences? So the first noticeable difference is definitely the feet. Like the original TRIBEX one, he has those flat feet, and you can also easily turn them off, and then you have spikes there. This is a really nice functionality, which you don't get with the SE version. Like if you're looking at the feet from the SE version, they are pretty normal, standard tripod feet, just slightly rounded so that they fit into different angles. You can screw them off, so I think there is an option somehow to put spikes on there as well, but it's definitely not as nicely made as on the original TRIBEX tripod. And the next difference is in the head. Like the head of the original TRIBEX tripod has a counterbalance, which you can adjust in 6 steps. And so here, for example, if you use a setup like this one here, even that one I think is a bit too light, even at the lowest setting. there it's usually supposed to that the camera just stays in place like right now. So you can adjust that with even heavier setups, and of course it also makes tilts really nice and easy. Pens of course are also nice and easy with this one, so it's a fluid head. And on the TRIBEX SE tripod, that's a bit simpler. Like when I extend that here there is also a counterbalance, but you cannot adjust it, so it's fixed. Now that means that on this setup here, for example, it would always like go back. If you have a setup that perfectly fits the counterbalance of this head, then of course it would also just stay in place when you let go, but you can't adjust it to your camera setup. Now, to be fair, I don't think it's an issue at all, because if I want my camera to stay here, I just tighten the screw again, and it stays there, so it's not really an issue. It's a zack, yeah, okay, stays in place, cool. It's also like I can tilt it perfectly smooth, so you see, like there wouldn't be any like stutter, jitters or so in the tilt. I can also pan with this. I can pan and tilt with it, like I can with the original TRIBEX tripod. So there is definitely a difference if you need that adjustable counterbalance. But I think for most like content creators, also many solo shooters, etc., what you get with this head here is perfectly fine. Like I personally don't need more at all. And there is also a slight difference in how the clutch works. Like here on the SE, you see that in a normal state, the clutch just points straight down. And you could like use the clutch in that position here. Like when I press, like I can adjust the legs, but it's not really nice to press there because there's not much space to the leg. So you would always have to like press the button and get the clutch up, and then you can properly use it. It's supposed to be like that. So here you see like this is now folded out 90 degrees. And now on the TRIBEX tripod, on the original one, there I find it a bit nicer because the clutch, like you can fold it completely down too if you want to, but it also locks into this lower position here where it's like, I don't know, 30 degrees angled or so. And so here, this is usually where I have the clutch, because then even when I put the tripod in a trunk or something like that, then I can just leave it like that, and when I take it out, I can perfectly adjust it directly. And so of course you can also like put it to like 90 degrees, just like the SE tripod, but you don't have to. Like you can just leave it in the lower position here and adjust it. So it's like it's not a like big difference, but it is a little inconvenience, I think. Like on the SE, I would always have to fold out the clutch here. On the original version here, you can save that step. You just leave it always in this position, and it's fine, unless you really want to pack it into the back or so, then you fold it in, but usually you don't have to do that. And there's also a difference that leads me to my personal experience with both tripods, and that is when it comes to the leg actually. Like I read online that there are quite a few people that seem to have had issues with the original TRIBEX leg extensions. There was like sometimes the issue that a leg or maybe multiple ones would not extend properly, and it was similarly to me when I got the original TRIBEX tripod initially. Like also one leg would not extend, but I noticed when I looked at the tripod a bit closer that one of those feet was not properly in place, like the angle was slightly different. So I just pushed it in place so it looked good, and then the whole leg worked perfectly, and since then I don't really have big problems anymore. But I feel like that sometimes I like have to rattle it a little bit so that a leg gets fully out, and it looks like that's a bit better on the SE actually. Like I feel like that the hydraulic mechanism works a bit better on the SE. Like they must have improved it a little bit, because here it feels a little smoother. And I also did not have any issues that it would not go down when I received this tripod. So I feel like that ultimately the hydraulic mechanism is improved on the SE one, which is a nice upgrade for less money. But what I also have to mention is that, like you probably noticed that now, that when I want to fold out those legs here, like that sidewise, that it takes a bit more power. Like here on the original TRIBEX one, it's really smooth. It's like I don't have to use much strength here, much power to get the legs out. But here I like have to pull a bit more, and then it's like just folds out in like one take. There I definitely prefer the way how the original TRIBEX behaves. But those are actually my only two observations when it comes to actually using those tripods in the real life. Aside from that, they are pretty much identical to me, and that's why I think it is much easier to recommend the TRIBEX SE tripod than the original TRIBEX tripod. Because it costs so much less, and essentially you get exactly the same, like unless you really need that 6-step counterbalance, of course. If you need that, of course, then yeah, you might want to get the original one, but then you're probably also doing much more expensive stuff, and you can justify paying $800 for a tripod. While if you don't need that, what is most likely the case, the SE is perfectly fine. And I have to admit, this is also a little issue that we YouTube reviewers have, like companies such as SmallRig send us those tripods for free. Like I got both of them for free to feature them here on this channel. And of course, then you get a tripod like the TRIBEX one, the original one, and you love this product. Like it made setting up my shots so much quicker that I use it all the time now. But if I look back and really ask myself if I would have spent $800 for it, maybe not, because still it's not like my travel tripod so that I can bring it everywhere and stuff. So I would most likely not have spent $800 on that. But now that I have a tripod here that costs $400, I would actually say yes. Like if, let's say, SmallRig would have sent me this tripod and I would have to send it back after maybe 2-3 weeks or so after testing it, then yeah, I would actually purchase this tripod, because then I get the same features with the TRIBEX one here, that I can set up everything so super fast. Everything is level directly. If it's not level, I can also like quickly adjust it here. It stays where it is. This is so cool. But yeah, it's like from my perspective, because I'm just a YouTuber, it doesn't make sense to spend $800 on that. But $400, yeah, I could totally justify that. So yeah, if you don't need the 6-step counterbalance and you want to have a tripod that just makes shooting your videos a bit easier, a bit faster, a bit more enjoyable, then definitely the SE tripod gets my full recommendation. And I actually slightly prefer it over the actual TRIBEX tripod, simply because it extends a little bit nicer. And also, yeah, this is one feature I forgot to talk about, or not feature, but one point. It's like the counterbalance, when I unscrew that here, it always goes super easy. But when I unscrew the counterbalance on the TRIBEX here, okay, now it's unscrewed already, but usually I don't tighten it too much, but when I then unscrew, it's usually way too tight, and I'm like almost breaking my fingers there. So here it's like so much easier. So yeah, one feature I forgot to talk about before. But yeah, that's why I overall actually prefer the SE, not just because of the price, but also for other reasons. So yeah, if you have any more questions about those tripods, feel free to ask them in the comments below. And also make sure to check out this video here in the corner, where I actually used the TRIBEX tripod, the original one, to shoot a little sequence of myself. So there you see how to actually use this tripod.